Hey, well, welcome to Mining Now, where we explore the latest in technology, innovation, and leadership across the mining sector. And I'm your host, Roy Slack, and this episode will feature Arjen de Bruin, who's the Managing Director of OIM Consulting. And we're going to talk about organization performance, people management, and operational optimization. And let's start the show. And Arjen, welcome.
Thank you, Roy. Thank you. Glad to be here.
And the first question is just personal interest for me. How was Indaba this year?
It was pretty frenetic. I think they said about 9,000 people this year, even better than pre-COVID. So it seems like the African continent and mining is still buzzing.
Wow. No, that's, sounds like a very exciting conference. Uh, I'd like to start out with learning a little bit about you and your background and how you got involved in the industry and to where OIM is today. So please.
Yeah, Roy. So I'm actually Dutch born. I was born in Amsterdam, and my parents then decided that the Netherlands is way too small for them, and so they moved to Zambia. So I, as a 3-year-old, landed up with my brother in Zambia. I went along with my parents. I needed to get fed and eat and drink. So yeah, we were there for a while. It was in Lusaka. A lot of people think that my parents moved to Zambia because my dad was a miner. My dad was a printer, and my mother a nurse. They just wanted adventure. And so we were there for 4 years, traveled a lot of Africa then as a child, Malawi, Tanzania, Kenya. And then in 74 came to South Africa. Then my father said he didn't swap out Amsterdam for a suburb called Bellville in South Africa. So we moved to Namibia. And in Namibia stayed for 7 years. Again, saw the whole of Namibia. It was pretty exciting. Lots of desert and lots of animals. You get the definitely not a lot of beach. Very cold Atlantic Sea. And then in 82, landed back in South Africa. I studied industrial psychology. I am not an industrial psychologist. I want to be clear about that. I got very bored of studying. So I got my initial degree and then I left it at that. I said, I need to start working because the theory is killing me. And so my first job, actually, I became an internal consultant for, I think, Africa, now Africa's biggest insurance company. And then learned all about BPR, process, technology. From there, I joined the international consultancy and was exposed to, obviously, international concepts about productivity and throughput. I left that for a 2-man show, but to be honest, I didn't know it was a 2-man show. So I nearly had a double heart attack thinking, there goes the house. But the great thing about that was it taught me how to do business development and sell. And I only really got into mining at about 2010. I was in fashion retail. I was in normal retail, financial services, IT. And then in 2010, 2011, I got my first mining project. And since then, to be honest, we have just grown with the methodologies and the concepts we have. It fits the mining industry perfectly. And funny enough, some of my old financial services and retail clients are saying, listen, we have the same problem. So it's just incredible how you think one industry has got all the issues and the others have nothing. We're finding the same things there. And yeah, another person that have been married for over 30 years and have a son. That's it. Yeah.
Let's talk about our heavy industry tour brought to you by Savannah Equipment, supplying mining equipment worldwide. We are heading to events across North America, Africa, and Australia, and filming episodes on location. Email us at info@crownsman.com to be part of our Crownsman's Heavy Industry World Tour. Geograph is Australia's leading manufacturer of enhanced performance mining parts. Geograph designs and manufactures enhanced wear parts to suit major mining machinery from Caterpillar, Komatsu, Hitachi, Liebherr, and more. The Geograph Enhanced Performance range is designed to reduce downtime and operating costs for mine sites and off-site repairers by engineering wear parts to last longer. Geograph challenges you to expect more from yourself and your assets. Visit geograph.com.au for more information or click the link in the video description below. The CIM 2023 Convention and Expo is coming to Montreal from April 30th to May 3rd. So join us in recognizing your peers at the annual CIM Awards Gala. This year is extra special because CIM is celebrating its 125th anniversary. There will be special programming and perks for exhibitors and attendees alike. Registration is now open and tickets sell out fast, so visit CIM.org to register now for short courses and explore sponsorship opportunities. Hexagon's technology and solutions enable stakeholders across the mining industry to make better decisions faster. Get smarter integrated cloudware, sensor software solutions, and in-field apps that connect mines to boardrooms in real time. Hexagon offers safer, autonomous, more sustainable open pit and underground mining solutions spanning exploration and planning, safety, and operations. Visit hexagon.com/mining or email info.min@hexagon.com today.
I find it so interesting. I spent 2 years in university majoring in psychology before I went into mining engineering. So,
Yes.
so we should do another show with two psychologists over a beer, but that'll be a different show.
Yes.
Very interesting. So this is the background that leads up to you starting or the start of OIM. And we'll get into lots of detail on OIM, but interested in the origins of the company. I mean, you were talking about that
Yes.
a bit, but maybe a little more detail on how it actually got started.
So interesting enough, OIM's been around since 1985, and it actually started as a culture company, and it started during the years of apartheid. What actually happened is Professor Bob Tessinius, he started working with individuals within South Africa, specifically around the racial issues that were there, saying how can we reconcile, how can we get over the obstacles that we have as the different race groups in South Africa. And while he was doing that, some of the captains of industry came along and said, you know, the concepts you talk about, issues like honoring people, things like that, those concepts we actually would like to see in our workforce. We'd actually like our workforce, can you change the culture of our workforce? Can you literally take all the disparate races and come along and start working? And so in 1985, that's exactly what happened. They started working, OIM started in the mostly manufacturing side, heavy manufacturing, and became a culture company. And it was incredibly successful. What we try and do is we try and create insight. And the races were so polarized, no one had insight of each other. We all had precepts and concepts of you know, the other, you know, they're like that. And when we got everyone in a room together and we said, you know what, let's create understanding, let's create insight into each other, into who we are, the different cultures and subcultures. And so that started breaking down the barriers, where people started saying, but you know what, we actually have 10 times more in common than what we don't have in common. And we actually believe in basically everything the same, but we just, you know, we're in just different settings in it. And as soon as we started breaking that down, we found if you created insight so that people could understand it, then we said, okay, now that's the one part. The other part is people need to understand what business is about. Most of the workforce had no idea what business was about. They were basically told, come in, do your job and get out. And you were shouted at if you didn't perform. I said, listen, let's all just understand, firstly, understand each other. Secondly, let's understand what, you know, business is about. Why do we do what we do? You know, a thing like a cost per unit, how is that made up? And as we started expanding those concepts with the workforce, everyone started getting it. And the interesting thing there is that the trade unions, which were very vocal in those days, actually bought in. They said, we like this. Because it wasn't confrontational, it wasn't management forcing something down on you. It was a whole understanding and helping each other understand what the global situation is. Like, I mean, we take an example. A gold is 1,800 at the moment per ounce. You know, and then the workforce is obviously you guys must be making massive profits. But now you're in a marginal mine, and that marginal mine runs at 1.7. So then you start explaining, guys, we can't go below. If we can't go over 1.8, otherwise, you know, we're gonna have problems here. And they never understood that, because in their mind, you know, this is and the whole issue of the global market sets the gold price. It's not the other way around. And so once people understood, and that literally set us up. That was the beginning of OIM, and it really was fascinating. I can tell you stories of some of my colleagues that during the end of apartheid that were dragged out of their hotel and beaten up by white racists because they did not like this concept of let's all better understand and harmony and all that. So that's been the journey. That was the beginning, to be honest.
Okay, so let's give a special thank you to one of our longest sponsors of the show, Savannah Equipment. And I'm actually going to hand it over to Jared so that he can give you a little bit more info on Savannah Equipment.
Yeah, thank you. So I mean, people see them as sponsors, so they'll ask me, kind of who they are, what they are, and just trying to understand the scope of the company. So Savannah Equipment is a mining supply company, and they're delivering on the whole equipment supply chain. So everything from the ore processing to underground mining, open pit. They're in hard rock and placer operations. And what they're doing is they're sourcing equipment from all over the world and then delivering it all over the world. Now, they are a Canadian company, so they're based there. But, let's say, they're selling entire ore processing plants. So there might be a plant down in Latin America, and there's a new mine that needs that plant in Africa or somewhere in the U.S. So they're facilitating that entire transactions. But they're also delivering, an individual conveyor or a concentrator or a pump package or just an electrical package. So it really is the whole gambit of the mining equipment supply chain.
Oh, that's great then. Well, then you definitely have to check them out. If you're looking for mining equipment, visit them at savannahEquipment.com, where you will find more equipment every day. Introducing the SolarSet Fold. The new foldable frame solar system brings power to your residential and commercial property and can be shipped worldwide. Like all SolarSet products, the SolarSet Fold comes turnkey, pre-assembled, and is easily transported and installed. Learn more about SolarSet Fold and their full line of amazing solar systems at solarset.com.
We've been very focused in a lot of our industry on safety and safety culture. And
Yes.
that seems to have been a long process to change, but this is broader. This is corporate culture. This is everything, not just safety.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about the process. When you talk to a new client, what are some of the things you focus on? You've got to get an understanding of what they're all about. So.
Yes. So what we basically, when we go to a new client, one of the things we have a kind of like a good understanding. We talk about 4 pillars traditionally. We say you need to have, your culture needs to be focused. So you need to have a good culture. It needs to have purpose and it needs to be lived because that's usually the issues we always joke about. We say, you have that day, that rah-rah day when everyone gets called in and the new vision and mission is unveiled and you get the T-shirt and the cap and the water bottle and the next day everyone goes to their shift and we've forgotten about the purpose of the company and we definitely don't live the values and so we say, look, you got to have that, but you also got to kind of like implement it and get people to live it. So that's one thing. We try and make sure that you make sure you got the right culture. The second thing is efficiency. Now, I know a lot of companies have used Lean Six Sigma. There's an old Alexander Proudfoot methodology called management operating system that people use for productivity, capacity management. So we do say you do need to be efficient and effective. I mean, it doesn't help. You have a wonderful culture, but your cost per ton is going through the roof. We're all hugging each other, but we're inefficiently hugging each other. That's so we try and say you got to make sure that you're efficient with the right culture. Then we look at things like structure. You need the right relevant structures, right people in the right place, doing the right thing at the right time. Now, what we noticed a lot in the industry is you had the right people 5 years ago. The world has moved on. These are not the right people anymore, but we carry them. So we say, the world has moved on. The guy who was relevant now is not relevant anymore. But the thing that really makes what we believe gives traction to any project that you do is your frontline leader, your supervisor, superintendent role. We literally find is that you can do anything in an organization. You can try and transform, but in the context that we work in, your supervisory staff, your frontline leaders are your culture carriers, and they are the guys that make the day. If you don't have them on board, it doesn't matter how beautiful everything is. They will, on their shift, they will say we will make it, or they'll say we won't make it. So our focus is to capacitize the supervisor. We call him the culture carrier. He is the man that stands and carries your culture, carries the things, makes things efficient. He's the guy that flags problems and makes sure things work. And our main focus now is to say, get that guy engaged, make sure he does his job. That doesn't mean that those other three aren't important. We've worked on projects where we've worked with supervisors, and to be honest, the culture is toxic. And we say to the client, listen, we're going to end, and it's all going to fall to pieces because everyone here basically hates each other. And you need to look at that.
It's, there's a saying, you're preaching to the choir here. There's so many things I can relate to. I remember one of our miners telling us that the supervisor sets the safety culture, but it's management that lets them. So
Yes.
there is that tie in there. But I do love your focus on supervisors in business in general, and we talk about this a lot, that we promote people because of their operational capabilities, not because of their
Yes.
management or supervisory capabilities. So I'm sure you see a number of people that probably don't have the ideal skills to be a supervisor.
No, absolutely, and it's one of the problems that we see in the industry and everywhere we go, is your technically strong person suddenly gets promoted into a leadership role. What we do is we send him on a 3, 4, 5-day course, how to be a leader. We give him examples of this is how hamburgers work and the forklift truck, and it's examples he cannot relate to. He comes back, he goes to direct manager and he says, I'm back, I want to be a leader. I learned some interesting concepts. The direct manager says, listen, just keep quiet and do your job. And he falls back. He doesn't really know how to manage because he's not allowed to actually implement what he was taught. The training is irrelevant for him. And what we usually find is he falls back into his old way. He actually starts doing the work that he always used to do. So he's not leading, he takes over. And the staff usually go, oh, this is great. We really like that. In the environment that we work in, and I'll throw some stats around. We've done around about 2,000 supervisors on the African continent. And I'm going to give you an exception to one of the stats, which is quite an interesting one for those that know African history. And we find 19% of supervisors in the African context are basically competent for their role. So you're literally working with 19%. And when we say competent, we have a rating score. Our industrial psychologists have created all these beautiful things. And the rating is out of 5. So that basically means you're at a 3. So that's pretty, we're not, these are not 5 out of 5s, these are 3 out of 5s. So that's what we term as a competent individual. The other thing is we found is that planning and organizing is the worst competency that we have. The second worst is leading and developing. So they don't take their teams with them. The third one is analysis and problem solving, the third worst one. They do not look at the stats. They don't sit and problem solve. They firefight. The supervisor, what we see, is a firefighter. I say to some of our clients, because they say, oh, we'll throw them with more data, that, I said, they don't actually want your data. They want to be the hero of the day. They want to run around and that. So we've noticed that our supervisors are busy, but they're not effective. They're running around and just doing things. And that's why when we come along, and I think we'll speak about it later, when we come along and do the coaching aspect, is to try and retrain their thinking to say, well, listen, you can't carry on just firefighting. The funny thing for us is that you literally see guys rock up and do their plan at the back of a cigarette box, on the day, like 10 minutes before shift starts. They don't even know how many people they've got. Like, oh hang on. It's really quite funny. Now, the best competency that we find is something called assertiveness. So we always joke, we say, yes, they can swear and shout, but they can't plan. So let me quickly just discuss Rwanda. Rwanda is the exception to the rule that we find in the competencies. So where everyone else, assertiveness was the strongest competency, in Rwanda, assertiveness was one of the lowest competencies. And that really had to do with the history of the genocide, to be honest. They do not like confronting and holding people accountable. They don't like the confrontation of that. So we had to literally work in a way that ensured that you're held accountable, but not in a way that comes across as I'm telling you because I'm better than you, or I'm superior than you, or whatever.
there's a couple. Well, there's lots of things that resonate with me, and the first thing I noted is I'm going to mention two things, and I'm sure you'll have lots of comments on both. And you must find that the Rwanda example was an extremely different culture, but you must find every group has differences, maybe significant differences in their existing culture. That's one point. The second one is when you talk about supervisors reverting to their old ways, were their old ways what they got positive reinforcement for before? That's what I seem to. This is my own theory: is you go back to the things you got a pat on the back for doing before, and
Yes.
So maybe there's some onus on management there too.
Mining is very hierarchical, I think, if you know, and obviously due to safety and all those issues there, you can't kind of like ignore a command. So because it's so hierarchical, when your boss shouts at you, you jump, and because you're jumping, the boss shouts at you again, because he goes, well, I'm getting some action here, because if I ask please, it doesn't happen. So that just constantly reinforces what we would term bad behavior. Now, we're not saying now and then a shout, look, we're in a mine, so shouting happens, but what it does is you're getting the guys to do things that just compliant, that you're not getting them to do it for a so our whole motivation here is when we speak to the workforce is, what's your better life? What is your better, what is it you want? And most of them will tell us, I want to send my children to university, I want them to finish school, I want to pay off the house, whatever. But those basics. We would ask the same question to leadership. They say exactly the same. I want my kids through university, pay off the house. Said, well, guys, if we don't work together as a team, we're not going to achieve target. And if you don't achieve target, you are not going to make bonus, or your bonus might not be as big as you potentially could have it. So this is the place where you're going to achieve your dream, is this workforce here. So if you want to be absent and your AWOPs are going to go through the roof, just remember you're stealing from yourself in essence. And once that starts working, and so we also say, if you start shouting at your staff all the time that they become demotivated and they give you the bare minimum, you're not going to get your better life either. So the best is, let's just work together and do that. On the different culture side, it's quite fascinating, because we obviously get challenged as consultants, like, well, you're working in Rwanda, and then you're working in Namibia, and you're working in Zimbabwe, and they're all different, and the Tanzanians are very proud people, and they don't like being told what to do, and and then you got the whole francophone side that we still need to jump into. If you come there with respect, we're not there to demean them. We are there to actually respect them. And the supervisory program we do actually builds in talent. We make them more capable to do things. So it's a really positive thing. What we love about the supervisory program, and what our clients love, is that HR loves it, because, oh my goodness, it's the first time we can give them a program where HR will show benefit. The ops managers love it, because they're going, oh, thank goodness, we're not just sending people away and then they're coming back and we don't see anything. The unions love it, because they're going, wow, the company is building into us, they're creating more capability. And the individuals love it, because they go, geez, I've got tools here to basically make my life easier, and I can build better work, I can build a better team, we can become more effective and more efficient. So it's really a nice, it's a really great story, versus the bloodletting of restructuring and retrenchments.
Well, it's again, I see so many parallels with what we do in safety, and we have a term in safety, the journey from compliance to commitment. So it's doing something because you have to, versus doing something because you want to, or for the right reasons. So this is very interesting for me. There's a couple of in some of my notes here, coaching linked to performance, which I think is interesting, and maybe goes a little bit beyond just culture, because there's some analysis involved there.
No, absolutely. So when we started the program, to be honest, there was nothing out there, so we had to build something from scratch. So we said, okay, well, let's understand the competencies, let's see how the individual executes his role. So we created something called a day planner. We would just say to every supervisor, tell us your day. I mean, what are the activities you need to do on a daily basis? And what we then would do, we would walk around with them and we'd rate them against it, again, a 5 scale. And unfortunately, it was really poor. I mean, it's like a 1.6 out of 5. So they were really not executing well. And we broke it down even to saying, handing over the keys to the LDV, stuff like that. Was it effective? Was it efficient? Because they saw it was part of their work. And so what we saw a picture was, okay, you don't have, the competency issue is a problem. So that leads to poor execution. And we said we need to attack that. So we thought, okay, so what we'll do is we'll look at competency, we'll look at how they do their day and rate it. We'll give them 4 or 5 days of classroom training. The 5th day is safety. So we integrated into the company safety training methodologies, whether they use their values. And then there's 4 days of very basic gamification type training to get them to understand the concepts of what production is, productivity is, throughput, etc., working with team, all those kind of things there. And then what we then do is the consultant, and before I forget, we then look at the team KPI. What are you being measured on? Is it meters? Is it tons, haulage, availability, mean time between failure, whatever, or mean time to repair, whichever one you're looking at. And so we would link the team KPIs to each team. And then what we would do is we would then sit with the supervisor and his, let's say, direct manager, and we would say, all right, this is the journey. This is a 16-week journey. And when we first started the program, we thought maybe we should only coach on the Monday or the Friday, or, once a week or twice a week. But then we realized Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday has all different pressures. Something's always happening, and you need to see how Tuesday is different to Monday, and you need to see how his team reacts. You need to see his environment. You need to see his personality under pressure. So then we realized you can't just coach on 1 day a week, because you're not seeing the full picture. And how do you coach someone if you don't see the full picture? Because when he sees you on just the Monday, he's going to be, he's going to act. He's like, oh, it's beautiful, it's wonderful. So we didn't want that. We said, no, we're going to do the whole hog. We're going to go with you for 16 weeks. And what we do is, as we coach the individual, and this is where the coaching to performance comes in, we coach them to have a successful shift. So what we do is every day we say, let's see how we can succeed with the shift. And we start putting in certain artifacts, which we call anchors or levers. We say, okay, this is a shift management book. How do you use this effectively? Let's see. Is it fit for purpose? Okay, this is the end of shift handover, which is very important. Don't just throw it on the table there. Have it effective. This is how you hold an effective meeting. 1 minute doesn't cut it, and 2.5 hours is really way too long, This is why we don't want you to have breakfast before your meeting, because your mining cycle has only got so many hours and we've lost half an hour. And you start building those things, and you start coaching around that. You start coaching around code of conduct, start coaching around what's the other one anchor? Visual management. Why visual management is important. And no, don't press a button to print it out. Write it down and put it up on a wall so that you understand what you've put down. And you start coaching, and then you look at the behavior. Okay, you're a bad planner, but man, you're a good communicator. Okay, well, let's help you with the planning. Geez, you communicate poorly, but man, we need to help you there. And geez, you can problem solve, but you don't take your team with you. And so you start coaching. And then what we do is we link it to the KPI. Then you start seeing the meters move. Then you start seeing, the availability goes up. Scheduled work is getting executed better. Because our whole goal here is saying, if we make the supervisor more competent and capable, it should show in the KPI. Otherwise, what are we trying to do here? Make happy, more competent people, and nothing happens. So that's the whole logic behind the coaching to performance. And to make the sustainability carry on, we take his direct manager and we coach him to be a coach. We coach him to actually be us, and we certify them. And we give them the plan going forward. So when we leave, we hand over what we call an individual feedback report. So we try to make sure that there's a sustainability to what we do. So yes.
And again, you bring up things that spark memories for me about I remember one supervisor who was excellent at what he did, really good at planning and figuring it out, but couldn't or didn't want to communicate it. So he
Yeah.
actually ended up being the leader on the shift all the time.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
he ended up being another one of the miners to get it done because
Yes.
he couldn't communicate it. So
Yeah.
I see the huge benefit in some of the training you're talking about.
Yeah.
A couple other things I found interesting, the 16 week, right? Was it 16
Yes.
week, 90 days?
The 90
program.
days. Yes.
Yeah. And it's on site during that time. It's not calling in or sending notes. It's
No.
you call it boots on the ground, which is a very familiar term to a lot of us.
Yes. We've often been asked, do you do remote coaching? And we're like, no, we don't do remote coaching. Our clients want us to be there. We physically need to be there. I need to understand your world. If I don't understand your world, then how can I coach remotely? I mean, I could put a body cam on you and see the world through a body cam. It doesn't work. So we said no. We're boots on the ground. I mean, South Deep, 3 kilometers underground. We coach 3 kilometers underground. You get in the cage, you go with him, you walk the kilometers he walks, and then you basically you make notes and you say, okay, hang on. We've got to talk about some stuff when we get up again. So yes, it's exhausting. It's pretty physical, but that's the only way to really do it. And you need to gain their trust. And that's one of the things what we try and do is our coaches are mostly engineers, and then we have some psychologists. And the reason we did it, we didn't want HR people coaching because the legitimacy wasn't there. The workforce, the supervisor would say, but what are you? You're just an HR guy. I mean, what do you know about our world? While we find if you put an engineer in, they walk around, they carry a bit of more respect. Also, they take away the BS factor. If the supervisor says, oh my goodness, this machine is broken, and our engineer goes, really, that seems very strange because I'm telling you now it's not broken. So you take that away. And so from that point of view, we do not do remote coaching. We are physical. We can intervene immediately. And when I say intervene, we are not a management layer. It's more a calling to the side and saying, okay, hang on, maybe next time let's not do it that way.
Well, you've given me a great segue into South Deep, and I remember the first time I visited South Deep was in 1998, and the shaft was halfway down, and the Witterstrand was doing its worst, and there was a lot of pumping going on, but huge operation, very deep, and your group's been working there. Tell us about South Deep.
Yes, so basically what happened was, I mean, I think South Deep is it's got a 70-year ore body. I think one of the biggest and deepest ore bodies around, specifically in the South African mining environment. 3 kilometers down. It was a conventional mine most of its life. It got basically built into a mechanized mine and was losing money, just losing money all the time. And we got given a call around about late 2018. They called us and they said, listen, we had Australians, we had Canadians, we have equipment. We're there, but it's just not working. And they came to the realization it was the people thing. It was the culture and the people issue. And so they basically said, can you guys jump in and do your program and lift the productivity, because it's a mine that's basically becomes profitable with volume. The more they get out, the more profitable it is. I think their ore is not as effective as some of the other mines, so as rich. So what we did is we came there and they had a very active union, so that was a problem. They then realized that they had too many people, so they had to do a cost cutting and a retrenchments exercise, which had nothing to do with us. And they took a strike, and I don't want to say a traditional South African strike because that sounds terrible, but it was a strike that had quite a bit of violence in it. And so when the strike ended, you literally had a whole bunch of sore people. frustrated, sore. And so we said, now we're going to rebuild the culture. And so we refocused the culture totally. And we created focus. And then through our coaching program, through the individuals, we started creating willingness. So people were focused on this is the new South Deep. This is what we're going to aim for. This is what we stand for. This is how we're going to do things. And when the bulk of the program was over 2019. When we left, that was the first year that South Deep had made a profit for 11 years. And I remember seeing the CEO, Nick Holland, at the airport. And Nick said to me during the tender process, he looked at me, and his first question to me was, I've used many consultancies and they've failed. What makes you different? So I must admit, I was never confronted by a question like that. So I was like, how do I answer this? And I said, you know, Nick, we work through the people. We're going to get under them. We're going to work through the people. And that's exactly what we did. We set the new culture, the new tone. They have very good management there, really committed managers there. Martin Priest, who's now the interim CEO of Goldfields, he was running it. Gerard Lott, Benford, really great managers, and their leadership team was committed and everything. So from that point of view, it was easier for us because we had a really committed leadership team. And so some of the metrics that came out from South Deep was, I think they increased the production by about 40%. Their cost per ton went down by 31%. And we then left a team in 2020 behind, a small team, to help embedding. So what we did is we took their business improvement unit and we trained them up to become us as internal consultants. So they took the Lean Six Sigma that they were taught. They took our supervisory development program and our culture program, and they basically built it into going forward. So we were there again till the end of 2020, and then we left. And since then, it's been sustainable. It's just been magic to see how South Deep has just carried on. It's quite a flagship for our program. But I'll tell you something quite funny. When we got the contract, I had a CEO of an international company come and say, "Walk away. No, it's a graveyard, man. Walk away." And I was like, "Oh my word!" I was like shocked. No, I literally had people coming saying, "No, don't do it. No, it's too difficult. People have tried and failed." And I must admit, we jumped in there, kind of like very naive, to be brutally honest, And I think something like that's the best way of doing it. And it's turned out really well. They've been a success story because when they took ownership, they took everything we built and they tweaked it and they made it their own and they added things, and it's really been successful from that point of view.
This one really interests me. I'm quite familiar with the operation, and it's a very challenging operation in terms of depth, in terms of grade and different things.
Yeah.
But and it's a large operation too. So
Yes.
When we talk about training supervisors, how many supervisors were engaged in your program there? Do you know offhand?
Yes, so we worked, if you're talking about the frontline leadership team, you're talking about 150 to 200 supervisors. And then we took on their section and production managers also. So we worked with them too, because we wanted a golden thread to make sure that happened. It was really challenging. It was hard. Just traveling down the cage and walking and seeing what they're seeing. The interesting thing there was for us is we were told that our industrial psychologist did a kind of like an assessment, a teachability assessment on some of the supervisors, and it came out that 25% of the supervisors were not teachable according to their whatever tool they were using. So you can't just take out 25% of your supervisors and say, well, goodbye, and that's fine. So the first thing was, how did they get there? And just made it. So in essence, unteachable means you put them in a classroom, you train them a concept, and when they walk out, there's no retention. And so we said, no, don't worry. We'll coach them to a standard. We'll coach them, because unteachable doesn't mean uncoachable. So our industrial psychologists basically said that 25% of the supervisors that they saw were unteachable. And basically, what do you do with unteachable people? You can't get rid of them. You've got 25% of your supervisors. So what we said to the management was, you know what, unteachable is not uncoachable. So give us these 25% and we will coach them to effectively do their day job. They're not going to be superstars. They're not going to, shoot the lights out, but they're going to be able to do their job effectively. And that's exactly what happened. We gave them the tools, we gave them the frameworks, we coached them. And as soon as they started understanding, the penny dropped. And as soon as the penny dropped, you started seeing progress going ahead. They weren't your superstars, but all of them except maybe one or two were actually able to perform their function effectively. So we always say to clients, just because you think someone is unteachable and he doesn't make it, if you coach him, you give him the right tools, you make him understand how things work, and you put it in plain, simple language, you will still get massive benefit out of your supervisor. But it's got to be done with a respectful attitude, not a, oh my goodness, how did we get stupid people working here? Because to be honest, they were not, they didn't choose themselves to go there. They were put there, and we now need to support them.
The concept of teachable versus coachable is very interesting. And when you said 25%, I was wondering what percentage of management were unteachable. But and that leads me to another question. They had mentioned before that they had not had success with past consultants. So
Yes.
you must have had to do some convincing up the ranks too. I mean, your focus on training supervisors, but the management and the executive were, I'm sure they were very keen to see what was happening here.
One of the problems you always have with consulting is that when mining and the unions here, the consultants are coming, they always see this, oh my goodness, there's a bloodbath and there's retrenchment that year. So it was refreshing from the bottom side, is that we're coming here to create a new culture, and we're coming here to give you tools, and we're actually coming here to ensure that this mine survives, and it's not just survives but thrives, and that this thriving is going to impact you as an individual, and it's actually going to impact the community, because I mean it all flows. So that was the one start. The other issue obviously was now we're speaking to management, but the nice thing about management was is your senior leadership was they had bought into this already. They'd already seen what we did in the industry, and so that's why they called us, because it's getting a call out of the blue to say come have a chat. So we still had to go through a tender process and that, but our focus was totally different, because most of the consultancies that they worked with was either a strategic focus and with very poor implementation, or a productivity focus with no people implementation. So basically, this is the process, that's productivity is X, and we said the problem you'll see in most mines that we've worked with is the business plan is set in the year, and all the numbers get thrown into the mining suite that gets used, and out it pops, and it literally says, on the shift you should be producing X amount of tons or ounces or whatever, and no one told the supervisor about that, and he just decided on that day he won't do it, and you don't know why, but he was just in a bad mood. So we just came along and said, you know what, we need to take these people on a journey, and we had to get management to understand is that the changing mindsets and behavior is not, it's not a 3-month intervention. But some of the individuals we worked with have been mining for more than 20 years, and it's been ingrained. This is how we mine. This is how we treat our people. Now you got to literally say, yes, this is how you used to mine, and this is how you used to treat people. But if we don't break the cycle, then none of us are going to achieve the goal we all want. And that's was the difficult part of is the behavior change. But exactly the same over there. I mean, as you said, there's a lot of skeptics in that. But you can literally see after 3 to 4 months, you will start seeing production increase. You'll start seeing a better attitude. You'll start seeing a difference of how individuals talk. And I think when that started happening, because when you take on consultants, I think as everyone knows, I'm actually selling you trust. Because I'm putting bodies on the ground and I'm saying, trust me, I'll get you what I'm saying. And it's a little bit nerve-wracking because selling of trust is, it's nice having something tangible. Here's a liter of Coke and you know, you can unscrew it and taste it. And now I'm saying, trust me. And you're like, okay, but it might have worked at Kumba, but you know, that's an open pit and we're a mechanized 3-kilometer underground, you know, and your union is different to our one, and we're gold and that's iron ore, you know, and so you can have a lot of kind of like negatives to use a consultancy. So we came along and we were very clear about a lot of things. Get rid of the toxic culture, capacitize your individuals. Your internal people were anyway looking at the processes. You're mechanized, you're digitized, you've got all the foundations to be an absolutely phenomenal business. But it's the mindset thing that we noticed was your problem. And that's what they noticed. And so, yeah, I must admit, they took a chance on us. I don't know if I mentioned, but Nick Holland saw me at the airport after they made their results, the first time that they'd made some money. And he actually said to me, he said, Arjen, when I sat with you and you spoke, I was skeptical. He says, I heard it and I was skeptical. But it panned out. It really did.
It's interesting when a lot of performance management, they talk about performance management, but it's really performance tracking, where people will send you reports and tell you what you're not doing well. And you seem to be looking at optimizing people, not optimizing performance. And I find that a really refreshing approach.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, our business is people business. I mean, mining business is actually a people business. I know a lot of the modern mines have less and less people. It's more automated. Obviously, some of the mining types don't allow for it. But where you can, but you're still going to have people. You're still going to have engineers. You're still going to have a plant. You are still going to have, even if they're doing remote, you're still going to have people there. And you need to ensure that the people are all connected, that they are all following the same thing. I mean, we're working. This is just a bit of a sideline, but we're working with an insurance company where their frontline leaders are sitting remotely with their teams. So how do you create a common thread and a common culture? Because traditionally you build the rhythm when everyone's sitting together and working together. So that was our challenge, and thank goodness we've been able to overcome that by doing exactly the same thing, focusing everyone on the common purpose, on the understanding of each other, the inside of the company. So our whole view here is that yes, you can have people sitting in San Francisco and remote mining in the middle of the Congo, but they are part of the culture of the company. And they should not be seen as, oh, well, we're the remote drillers of San Francisco. They should be seeing themselves as, we are part of achieving the dream for this mine. So it's a people job. So absolutely, we love people. That's the thing that keeps us going.
So it really seems like a universal model. You've talked a lot about Africa, but what's your experience in other areas? Have you started to venture out?
So we haven't done any work outside of Africa, but we have ventured out. So we went to Australia. It's quite interesting because our mindset was basically, this is obviously a third world problem or emerging market, or however we term it, but in essence, this is a South America, African, Asia problem. The first world doesn't need this because that we're highly skilled and mechanized and digitized and everything. So in our mind, we were like, okay, so we know where we need to go to. Until we had chats with the Anglo-American head office many years ago, and they said, listen, this supervisory problem we're finding in Canada, we're finding it in Australia. And so it's not just our African assets. So we were quite interested. So I went to Australia last year, had meetings with a lot of Australians and South Africans living in Australia, and they said the same. Look, the emphasis is different. Like here, it's like the miners actually don't know what they don't know. So you actually got to say, okay, well, this is how you do it. Versus in Australia, it's more like, how do we make them more effective? Because they actually do know what they need to do, but they're not basically sort of extending themselves or achieving what they can achieve. And so that came out. So it was fascinating, because when I explained to them what we do, they said, I said, this is our framework. They were like, absolutely, we need something like this. So I was like, okay. I then spoke to De Beers and to Rio Tinto in Canada, and they said they have the same issue on the supervisor side. So it seems like this, even though the emphasis of why it's not working is different, it seems like this is an issue that's look. We also spoke to Mexico, but we kind of like expected that in Mexico this would work. I did get a little bit of a concern when the potential client said, and we have a very good relationship with the cartel. I was a little bit taken aback. we didn't get the work there, but it does throw you into the realities of doing a global business. So yes,
Every culture is different, and
yeah,
yes, like I did mention, I thought your approach was universal, and
yeah.
there might be different challenges at different mines, but the whole issue of giving the supervisors all the tools and all the knowledge to do their job, we see that everywhere. So what does the next 5 years look like for OIM? I mean, you've been successful. Sounds like there's lots of opportunities.
So we are looking at expanding our footprint into Australia, into North America, specifically Canada and some US assets, and then seeing if we can get into South America. The challenges we obviously have is we're an English speaking company, even though South Africans speak more than one language, but French and Spanish is not really our strength. But we are being confronted now by DRC, West Africa. We're doing a project in Ethiopia that is very fascinating because it's a very different culture. It's never been colonialized in the sense of like the rest of Africa. So they're a very proud nation. They have their own culture and history. So we're definitely looking at expanding within the African continent, in the French-speaking and even Portuguese-speaking environments, and then moving to South America, North America, and Australia. We feel we can. It will be slow. I mean, as you know, because we have to fund everything out of rands, and the dollar is way stronger than the rand at the moment. But we're excited about that concept and prospect. Yeah.
I think what I found, people in North America sometimes don't realize just how diverse Africa is, from country to country. And you mentioned some of the countries you've lived in, but it's an incredibly diverse continent. And so I'm sure everywhere you go, there's a different culture you're dealing with.
No, absolutely, and that's the challenging but fun part, because and that's where I think our cultural roots help us a bit to say, okay, well, hang on, let's get insight into what's going on over here. Yeah. Let's get understanding before you storm in and start saying things. Let's just sit down, have a good discussion, get understanding. We found one thing that always works is if you're polite and respectful, and you have a slight understanding, because obviously you don't understand all the nuances of the culture of every single country. But we do find if you're polite, respectful, you're willing to listen, and you're willing to put your hand out and say, okay, we're here to help you. Then we find that everyone works on the same page. Then it's not that difficult. But if you're going to come in as an arrogant South African and you're going to slap a few guys around to make them work more effectively, the chances are that you're going to get either hijacked, shot at, chased out, jailed, or something crazy like that.
Yeah, I have a hard time picturing that approach working anywhere.
No.
And so I'm just going to ask you. We're going to wrap it up, but I want to know if you have any final thoughts, any final comments you want to share with the viewers.
The one thing that I think I really would like to emphasize is there's this tendency of young people not to want to go into mining anymore. I heard the professor of the Denver School of Mining, and he says there's just a drop off of mining students. And I saw the same. I think the University of Queensland has dropped their mining engineering as a subject. I'm not 100% sure if that's exactly the one that they dropped, because less and less young people are coming through. And I just want to say is, if you're a Gen Z or a millennial, mining has the biggest potential to actually change the world for the good. Things like extracting cobalt for the new energy, for the new EVs, It's just phenomenal what mining can do. It's a dirty job, we know, but boy, it's fulfilling. It's quite exciting. It's got digital, it's got machines, it's got risk, and it pays well if you know what you're doing. So that's my final thoughts on that.
Well, that's great. That's music to my ears, Arjen. So
Yeah.
this has been very interesting for me. I've really enjoyed this and enjoyed meeting you. And thank you for joining us on Mining Now. And thank you to all our viewers for joining us on another great Mining Now show.
Thank you, Roy. It was a pleasure. Thank you.